Think about the last time you said, I can't. Maybe it was about changing jobs, starting something new, or having a difficult conversation. Now ask yourself honestly, was it really that you couldn't or that you chose not to? This question cuts deep because it challenges something we all do. We create stories about why our lives are the way they are. We blame our childhood, our circumstances, our personalities, and these stories feel true. They feel safe. But according to philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre, these stories are actually keeping us trapped. Sartre had a disturbing insight about human nature. He noticed that people are incredibly skilled at lying to themselves, not in obvious ways but in ways that sound perfectly reasonable. We say things like, I'm just not that type of person, or I had no other choice, so many times that we start believing them. We treat these statements as facts about reality when they're actually choices we're making every single day. Let me explain what makes this so unsettling. Most of us walk through life believing we're shaped by forces beyond our control. Our family background determines our success. Our past trauma explains our present behavior. Our personality type dictates what we can and cannot do. These explanations feel mature and realistic. They remove the burden of responsibility. They make us feel like victims of circumstance rather than authors of our own story. But Sartre saw something different. He saw people hiding from an uncomfortable truth that we are radically free and therefore completely responsible for what we become. Now, when Sartre talks about freedom, he's not talking about doing whatever you want. He's talking about something much heavier and more uncomfortable. He's saying that there is no blueprint for your life, no predetermined path, no fixed identity that you were born with. There is only your existence and the constant pressure to decide what to do with it. Even when you refuse to make a choice, you're still choosing. Even when you let others control you, that's a decision you're making. There's no escape from this responsibility. This is what Sartre called being condemned to freedom. You didn't ask to be born, you didn't design this world, but now that you're here, you're stuck with the burden of creating meaning and direction for your life, whether you like it or not. And this is terrifying for most people, because if you really accepted this freedom, if you truly believed that every moment is a chance to become someone different, then you'd also have to admit something painful. Your current life isn't an accident, it's not your parents' fault. It's not because of your difficult childhood or your mental health struggles or your lack of opportunities. Your life right now is the result of thousands of small choices you've made. The choice to stay silent instead of speaking up. The choice to follow the path of least resistance. The choice to numb yourself instead of facing discomfort. The choice to believe the story that you can't change. All of it, every bit of it, you're doing. This realization creates what Sartre called anguish. It's not just regular anxiety. It's a deep, destabilizing terror that comes when you realize there's no one else to blame. Your life isn't happening to you, you're creating it moment by moment, whether you admit it or not. And this terror creates a powerful temptation, the temptation to escape into fixed identities and comfortable roles. You tell yourself, I'm just an anxious person, or I'm not creative, or I'm bad with money. These labels feel like facts about who you are, but they're not. They're choices you keep making, disguised as unchangeable truth. Sartre called this bad faith. It's a form of self-deception where you pretend to be a fixed object instead of a free human being. You become so attached to playing a role that you forget you're playing it. You become your job title, you become your diagnosis, you become your past, and in doing so, you trade your freedom for psychological comfort. But here's the really disturbing part: even this act of hiding from your freedom is a choice. Even your escape is an exercise of the freedom you're trying to deny. You can't stop being free, you can only stop being honest about it. So most of the limitations we experience aren't actually imposed by the world. They're manufactured by ourselves. Through thousands of small acts of avoidance and fear and rationalization, we build a prison and then claim we're trapped. Let's look at some common excuses through this lens. I can't leave this job because I have bills to pay. Sounds reasonable, right? But Sartre would ask, is it true that you can't, or is it that you won't because the alternative is scary? You could leave. You're simply afraid of the consequences. That's not a lack of choice. That's a choice hidden under fear. I'm just a shy person. Sartre would say you're not being shy, you're choosing to act shy moment after moment. Then you label that behavior as your identity, but at any point you could experiment with different behavior. You just don't, because changing threatens the safe story you've built about yourself. My past made me this way. Two people can have identical childhoods and live completely different lives. Your past happened, yes, but its meaning is being created by you right now. Trauma shapes your experience, but it doesn't write your future. Only you do. The moment you use your past as an unchangeable explanation for your present, you're giving up your freedom while pretending to be realistic. And perhaps the most dangerous excuse: when I have more time, more money, more confidence, then I'll pursue what I really want. This creates an imaginary future to avoid the present. It makes you feel like you're on a path while actually choosing to do nothing. The perfect conditions you're waiting for will never arrive. This is procrastination dressed up as planning. Sartre's point isn't to make you feel guilty, it's to wake you up. Every time you say, "I can't," you should stop and ask, "What am I really avoiding?" Usually the answer is this: the responsibility of knowing that I actually can. And that's why most people prefer feeling stuck to feeling free, because freedom is terrifying. It means you're creating your life whether you admit it or not. But here's what happens when someone finally stops believing their own excuses. It's not peaceful, it's not relief, it's a crisis. Because when all your comfortable explanations collapse, nothing holds you up anymore. No identity, no justification, no narrative. You're left staring into an open abyss of possibility with the terrifying knowledge that you alone are responsible for what comes next. This is the moment Sartre described as true anguish, not stress from external pressure, but a primal fear that arises when all illusions of certainty vanish. For the first time, you realize no one is coming to save you. There is no script, no destiny, no cosmic plan. There is only you and the question, what will I do with my existence? And here's the paradox. Most people say they want freedom, but when they actually touch it, when they feel the full weight of being able to choose anything, become anything, change everything, they pull back. Because real freedom isn't light or liberating, it's heavy, it's overwhelming, it destroys the comfort of blame, it eliminates the illusion that life is happening to you. This is why Sartre called freedom a condemnation. You didn't ask to exist, but now that you do, you're condemned to carry the full responsibility of that existence. You cannot opt out. Even doing nothing is a decision, even silence is a statement, even running from yourself requires self-awareness. But in this moment of anguish, something else becomes possible: creation. If you are nothing but your choices, then you can become something else. Not someday, right now. The same freedom that seems unbearable becomes the only source of real transformation. But transformation isn't automatic. It requires what Sartre called good faith. This means embracing your freedom with full awareness, refusing to lie to yourself about the fact that every action, every thought, every value is chosen by you. Living in good faith means recognizing that you're not a fixed being, you're always becoming, always creating yourself. And with that comes unbearable power, the power to reinvent who you are at any moment. This isn't easy. Bad faith is the default mode of human life. It's easier and safer. Society encourages you to adopt stable identities, to say "I am this" or "I am that" because it makes you predictable. Culture provides ready-made roles: the professional, the parent, the rebel, the victim. These roles come with scripts, behaviors, even emotions. And most people, exhausted by the weight of freedom, slip into these roles and forget they're performing. But the person living in good faith never forgets. They may still play roles, but they do so consciously, knowing they could choose differently. This awareness changes everything. It dissolves the illusion of a fixed self. It burns away the comfort of "I have no choice." And most importantly, it destroys self-pity. When you live in good faith, you can no longer say, "I am like this because of what happened to me." Instead, you say, "This is how I've chosen to respond to what happened." That shift from passive to active, from determined to choosing, is the essence of authenticity. So what does this look like in practice? First, catch yourself lying. Start noticing when you use phrases like "I can't," "I have to," or "that's just how I am." Each time, pause and ask, is this a fact or a convenient story? Then rephrase it honestly. "I can't quit this job" becomes "I'm choosing not to quit because I fear instability." This simple rewording reclaims your agency. Second, break your identity script deliberately. If you think you're not assertive, go have a difficult conversation. If you believe you're bad with money, spend an hour learning about finances. These small intentional acts disrupt the illusion of a fixed self. They remind you that identity isn't discovered, it's created. You're not a noun, you're a verb. Third, practice ownership without justification. When you make a choice, accept the consequences without deflecting. Resist the urge to say "I had to" or "it wasn't my fault." Instead, say "I chose this, this happened, I accept it." This builds the emotional muscle of responsibility. Fourth, sit with the discomfort of freedom. When you stop running from your freedom, you'll feel pressure, dizziness, discomfort. This is the anguish Sartre spoke of. Don't flee from it, sit with it. Let it strip away the layers of false identity and false necessity, because beneath that anguish lies the raw, terrifying power to shape yourself. At the end of it all, Sartre leaves us with a truth so difficult and so full of potential that most people avoid it their entire lives. You are nothing more and nothing less than the sum of your choices. There is no destiny coming to rescue you, no hidden true self waiting to be discovered, no cosmic plan guaranteeing everything works out. There is only the fact that you exist, and from this existence you must build meaning, not passively, not eventually, but now, always now. This isn't punishment, it's a gift. A brutal one, yes, but a gift, because within this terrifying freedom lies real authorship, real power, not the power to control outcomes or escape pain, but the power to respond, to shape, to say, this is who I will be. Not because anyone told you, not because your past demands it, but because you chose it, fully aware, fully awake. The tragedy isn't that life is hard. The tragedy is that most people spend their lives pretending they're not free. They build prisons out of excuses and then complain about the walls. They dream of change but refuse the cost, the death of the old self. But the person who chooses to live in truth discovers something most never will, that the pain of freedom is nothing compared to the regret of never claiming it, that the anguish of responsibility is also the birthplace of dignity, that there is no greater peace than knowing, I chose this, I am the author of this life. This is the final paradox of Sartre's philosophy. In the absence of predetermined meaning, we're gifted the power to create it. In the silence of an indifferent universe, we're given the voice to speak ourselves into being. The weight of freedom, which feels at first like a curse, is actually the only path to real liberation. So the question isn't whether you're free, you already are. The real question is, what have you been using your freedom to avoid, and what will you choose now that you know the truth? The video ends here, but your life continues. Who will you be after this? What will you stop pretending you can't do? What lie will you stop telling yourself? And more importantly, what truth will you now dare to live? The choice, as always, is yours.